This is Moments of the Movement, Civil Rights and Change in America.
I'm Lonnie Bunch, founding director of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. Welcome to Moments of the Movement. The images of the Civil Rights Movement, captured by its photographers, remain some of its most important and lasting records thanks to the work of the men and women on the front lines with the camera. Orangeburg, South Carolina native Cecil J. Williams learned of his love of taking pictures as soon as he held his first hand-me-down Kodak Baby Brownie. He set out taking pictures of the nascent movement in Orangeburg, became a correspondent for Jet magazine at the young age of 15, and made national news after taking some key images after the 1968 Orangeburg massacre.
My first camera, which was given to me by, I think, my brother. My brother had inherited the camera. I think my mother had purchased the camera, a Kodak Baby Brownie, which I still have, and by the way, which still works. But it was, as my brother's interest grew to music and blowing a saxophone, he gave me the camera, and of course I started taking pictures, and I was fascinated by the fact that you could capture an image and then, see it. And it was much later in my life that I discovered, of course, how to set up a dark room and develop in my own pictures. But as I took pictures for people on Sundays, I would have them develop, and this also became my hustle because I could earn $1 or $2 on Sundays of people dressed up in their fineries at the Edisto Gardens, which is a local garden where we have, of course, water running. The Edisto River runs through it. And we have many roses and other varieties of things growing, and it becomes a very popular place for both black and white citizens, of course, to go there and walk around the gardens and take pictures and lay on the grass, and so it was a very popular place. During the period of, say, 62 to 68, you had a lot of tokenism. You had a lot of blacks being hired various places. You had most places after 1963, 64, and 65 in the Voting Rights Acts and the other civil rights legislation taking place. You had a lot of them changes taking place, and they were felt here in South Carolina, and they were very much appreciated, and the citizenry, they were enjoying the benefits of those changes. Also, you had some places like bowling alleys and restaurants that in South Carolina had still not welcomed African Americans for them to go into or to shop or whatever. And one here in Orangeburg was the All-Star Bowling Alley. Any student leaving State College or Claflin, or any citizen walking uptown from the area of the campus and going up into the city of Orangeburg, if you were on Russell Street, you would pass by a strip mall on the right-hand side, and out front there was a sign that hung identifying this as the All-Star Bowling Alley, but then there was a small sign that said white only. So if you were walking uptown to spend your money to purchase something, you would pass by that sign every day, or if you were riding by, you would see it. It was large enough. It's about maybe a 7-inch by 3-inch sign that said white only. And so this is one of the facilities that is not allowed African Americans. The students, some students at State College who had been driving to Columbia to bowl and going other places because they were not welcome there, decided that they would not, take this anymore, and they decided to try to go to the bowling alley, and they were arrested. And then, hearing about the arrest, there were others from the campus that also joined. I get involved on about February the 6th. Wherein I hear that there's a commotion going on at the bowling alley, and that the students from State and Claflin, and being the yearbook photographer for State and Claflin, wherever the students were, I would catch all of their athletic activities, all of their student activities, all the Lyceum programs, and so here they were involved in a protest, so that's where I was. And what happened, the students and perhaps 250 or 300 students in the area of the strip mall, and you have approximately 50 or 75 highway patrolmen, city police, and others that are there, and they're trying to tell the students to leave the area, go back to your campus or you will be arrested. And just as all that was going on, a student pressed against a glass in one of the vacant stores in the mall. And everyone's, of course, in a very packed, tight situation. And the least movement caused the student to break this window. And as he broke the window, everybody heard the commotion, and police authorities started, raising their clubs as if somebody had maybe intentionally done this. And they began trying to hit people. And so everyone started running away, including myself. I had at that time a twin lens camera, and I had it around my neck. And of course, I started running too. In fact, I even left my car, and because my car was parked out on Russell Street. But I left the area and I turned left towards the campus because that's where the greater number of students were headed. And just as I turned by a former furniture store known as Sutcliffe's Furniture Store, I looked back and I saw a female student fall to the ground. And then I saw 2 city policemen start beating on her head with clubs just because of the fact that she had fallen, not because she had done anything, and because she was running. So that shows you the cruelty and the brutality that police authorities were using. Say this was 3 days before the what turned out to be the Orangeburg Massacre. On the night of the Orangeburg Massacre, I had returned from Columbia, South Carolina, and of course I had been covering all the activities ongoing. And I came to State College from the area again on College Avenue, and right in front of Claflin. I could not get any further because there were police authorities blocking there. And I tried to circumvent where that blockage was, and I went to another area, but I couldn't get in there either. Then I had a couple little other areas that I knew that was on the campus itself from some other streets to get in, but I could not get in. So I found no way to be able to get onto the campus of State College on that particular evening. Later I would find out that my being unable to get there probably saved my life, because during the night, during a time after the students had built a bonfire, 9 highway patrolmen started creeping up onto the campus of State College, and they started firing their shotguns into a crowd of about 250 students. And ultimately, they, after I think about 9 or 10 seconds of firing, you have the 3 students were later found to be killed. Then you had about 27 injured, and you have perhaps many, many more, some of whom have never come forward, that also receive very minor injuries. And almost all of the injuries are injuries from the back. Jack Bass has a great book out called The Orangeburg Massacre, which tells the story in detail, and he and Jack Anderson did a very good reportage on that. My book, called Orangeburg 1968, also has the visual coverage on the pictures from that particular date. But the morning after the massacre, I got in my car, drove to the State College campus, and there was an eerie atmosphere surrounding the area where the students were the night before and where the killings had taken place. It was an overcast morning. It was very cold. I had on my overcoat, and this is about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I noticed that the maintenance truck from the campus had arrived, and they were picking up all of the debris to clean up the area. So I looked down and I saw shotgun shells and other debris spread all over the area where the students had been killed, and I started picking those shells up and putting them in my pockets. And then the maintenance truck was picking up other things at the same time. Later, after my picture appears in, I think Time and Newsweek and in newspapers all over the United States, I should mention that I took a picture of the shells of a student. I posed a picture of a student holding the shells, and I think I had about 7 or 8 or 9 shells. And later, after this picture appeared in many publications, national publications around the United States, the Federal Bureau of Investigation confiscated the shells from me, and they later were used as a trial is developed to try the highway patrolmen. And they led the shells that I picked up to coming from 9 highway patrolmen who had actually fired on and killed the students. As it turned out, in a trial in Florence, South Carolina, all 90 highway patrolmen were found not guilty. And to bring that up to today, I think that only a couple of years, the FBI considered maybe reinvestigating and reopening this particular case, but they failed to do so as well. I was also offered a job to join the FBI at that time. At this time, 1968, there were very few African Americans, and the FBI agent who got the shells from me informed me that J. Edgar Hoover himself had asked him to ask me if I wanted to be an FBI agent. And of course I refused that offer because I didn't know whether it was a genuine effort or whether they wanted really just to make me an informant out of me, which I refused. The FBI, again, although investigating this particular case, in my opinion, failed to do the job that they should have done, because there was no doubt who killed the students. The fact is that there were no guns found to belong to any students, and although a officer had been injured by part of a railing from a house next door during the time there were students there, still yet there was no massive effort and anything to justify the highway patrolman really firing upon the students. And this incident, came to be known as the Orangeburg Massacre because that's exactly what it was. They were defenseless. They didn't have any weapons, and till today, it's also, unfortunately, one of the stories about things happening in this area that many publications and people really don't know about.
Oral histories were conducted by the Southern Oral History Program in the Center for the Study of the American South at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill on behalf of the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture and the Library of Congress. Moments of the Movement, Civil Rights, and Change in America comes to you from New Visions, New Voices, expanding the American conversation because it's time to hear the difference. With support from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Visit us online at newvisionsnewvoices.org.